Alright everyone, in today's video, we are going to dive deep into the upcoming weather pattern, taking another look at the seriously cold air and multiple potential snowstorms that we are still tracking as we head towards the end of November and into the beginning of December. There is a lot to cover, so let's just jump right into it. And hey, before we do, we're trying out a different format today, so I would love to get your feedback. Please drop a comment down below and let me know how you feel about it. We're focusing on the lower 48 states and a pattern that's bringing in even colder air. This is the one that is going to transition even deeper. Now, as we take a look at our European model right out of the gate, what we see for Friday is some thunderstorm activity. We currently have thunderstorms firing up in areas across the south-central states. We are going to see this system move eastward for tomorrow, impacting the Midwest and the Deep South. Parts of the Mid-Atlantic will also be seeing some of this activity. We clearly have a split jet stream where the southern jet, or our atmospheric river as it has been called, is moving through the deep south right now and heading eastward. And our northern jet is not diving super far southward, but we can see it actively flowing just like this. These two streams are going to come together at certain points, and that, my friends, is when we are going to cash in on some potential snowfall. Let's keep moving forward though, towards Saturday the 22nd, and a lot of this shower activity, or maybe even thunderstorms, will be located over the southeast. Meanwhile, we have another system over here in the southwest starting to move onshore, so Southern California could potentially see precipitation on Saturday the 22nd, and we're seeing action along our northern jet as well. It is kind of interesting. We have a system moving in on both the northern and the southern jet streams here, and we can see a little bit of Washington State getting in on some precipitation from that northern system too. Moving on to Sunday, the 23rd, a lot of this just expands. We can see a storm system again in the northwest, causing some significant mountain snowfall and some lower elevation rainfall. It is the same story for the four corners. States low elevation rainfall and high elevation snowfall, really. Now as we keep going through towards Monday here on the 24th, what we see is the southern system really starts to get its act together, with a low forming between Kansas and Oklahoma. This will mostly present itself as a severe weather and thunderstorm risk for Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and maybe even Louisiana as well, so there is some definite thunderstorm and severe weather potential. I will mention, today we do have a severe weather risk. This risk actually looked worse in the long-range forecast than it does today, and I am not saying that so you don't take it seriously, but it had the potential to be worse when we were looking at the model guidance about a week ago, because the atmosphere ended up becoming a little oversaturated. We have a lot more precipitation out there, and typically, you are going to see worse severe weather when a cold front rolls through into warm and clear conditions ahead of it. But right now, we are really just seeing a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity all over the place, which actually, though it seems worse, can make things a little less potent for severe weather typically. Now, for Tuesday on the 25th, and I guess I am saying that, but I should note that this next one times look clear out ahead of it. But so did the one that we are dealing with today in the long range. So we are going to continue to monitor this, but the trend has been, over time, they tend to look more oversaturated as we get closer, and I would not be surprised if that happens here. I also would not be surprised if it does not. We are just going to have to watch and see. We are looking pretty clear out ahead of things here for the deep south and into the lower Appalachian area for Tuesday on the 25th. So again, thunderstorm chances and severe weather chances would be present. We have a low-pressure system here between the Hudson Bay and the Great Lakes, which, as you guys know, causes an increased possibility for colder air to move eastward. We can see another system along that northern jet taking place here, with some high-elevation snowfall in the northwest and low-elevation rainfall again as we keep going towards Wednesday on the 26th. We can see this trough is beginning to dip into the east, so that colder air is moving in. The eastern seaboard is still seeing milder air for Wednesday here, but this should be moving out soon. We have showers and thunderstorms present as well throughout that warmer sector. But for Thursday, on Thanksgiving, a couple of interesting things are happening. We can see this northern jet is relatively active. There is precipitation all along it, including some Rocky Mountain snowfall right there. This colder air is dipping further down into the east, so we are seeing colder and colder air moving in for the central and eastern states. We can also see activity along this southern jet moving up into the deep south, so you have kind of got this close call for a link-up right here. We will have to see how far the cold air gets, but what ends up happening on this model run, and I have to stress, asterisk this specific model run asterisk, because we have seen the models go back and forth on, this is not locked in, this is not guaranteed. This is purely a chance at this point, but what this model represents is what is possible if everything kind of comes together. Because this looks to me like what would probably be the worst case scenario on today's 0Z European model run. We see a nor'easter developing off the North Carolina and Virginia coast. We begin to get southern Appalachian Mountain snowfall, and I know this is going to excite a lot of you, but please, pump the brakes. It is okay to be excited about the potential, but that is all it is, potential. We see a lot of rainfall along the mid-Atlantic and southeastern coastline, which would probably bring quite a bit of wind, heavy rainfall, and potential coastal flooding, because this looks like a semi-hefty nor'easter. I'm inclined to call it a moderate nor'easter, so it would be impactful for areas like the Outer Banks, the eastern shore of Virginia there, along the Delmarva in general, and even up into New Jersey. As we keep going, this is 7 a.m. on Saturday the 29th. That will be a couple of days after Thanksgiving, and we could see the whole Appalachian Mountain Range and even extending into parts of the Mid-Atlantic like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and then southern New England, getting moderate to heavy snowfall as this low intensifies. Still, 991 millibars, and again, this is the worst case scenario. I would say this low is placed perfectly for a snowfall opportunity on this particular model run, and the timing is also perfect with the cold moving in. You have two factors that are absolutely perfect on this model run, but we have seen it flip-flopping, with the timing and location. This is probably your worst case scenario. And as we move overnight, we see heavy snowfall reaching as far south as Philadelphia, Delaware, and basically the entire state of New Jersey into the entirety of New England. And that is a 982 millibar low pressure center. Again, not only is the timing and the placement perfect, but it is intensifying as well. I am just trying to really iterate that. I know I have kind of hammered the point home, but this would be an absolute monster. 975 there now, kind of to the east and southeast of Maine. This would be a crazy heavy hitter for New England. We can still see at this point there is a lot more connection between the southern jet and northern jet off the west coast. Now we are just getting pure moisture and cold moving along a singular jet through more of the central west coast. We are seeing tons of storm systems moving through for California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, and the Rocky Mountains and the Northern Plains. We can see tons of wintry activity all over the place along that singular jet stream now happening. Just in the late November timeframe, we do get this kind of plains, Midwest, Great Lakes type system setting up here as well. It is coming in a little flatter. We have seen a lot of model guidance showing them move more northward, kind of wrapping around a trough. But this is moving in much flatter, which is what the GFS model was actually showing for a few days there. So it is interesting to see this European model coming in with a lot more of a flat look. And then we even see the Northeast kind of cash in on a light to moderate snow system. A moderate snow system right on its heels for early December too. It looks like we're getting another very similar setup. Once again, you have your northern jet stream diving in like this, and at the same time, your southern jet stream is surging in like this, creating a perfect meeting point right over the Midwest and plains, right in that early December timeframe. And guess what? That also delivers another light to moderate snow event for the Northeast. So, when I tell you there are multiple chances for snow, I absolutely mean it. And remember, this is all in the long-range forecast. We are just looking at the potential, but the models are showing several opportunities lining up, all based on how supercharged that southern jet stream is and how much true Arctic air we have to work with as we head from late November into early December. The chances should definitely be there. Now, that's no guarantee we'll hit the jackpot on even one of them. We could score on all of them, or we could strike out completely. Realistically, the most likely scenario is that we capitalize on one or two of these events. You know, we might just miss out on the third storm or maybe the second one. It's really tough to say for sure, but landing somewhere in the middle feels more probable. Of course, this is all speculation this far out, but we are seeing the puzzle pieces click into place on these models, and even as we look toward early December, around the 5th, this is as far as this particular model run can see, and folks, this southern jet is absolutely screaming. I mean, it is just rocketing into the eastern states, and you can see the northern jet is locked in right alongside it, almost the entire way. So I really think we're going to see some serious potential. Now, switching over to the GFS model, as we just scrolled through it, this is the 12Z run. Let me just refresh this. What we're seeing here is a bit less of that perfect connection. It does show a snow system, but much farther inland and closer to Thanksgiving. This would be around the 26th into the 27th, and we see a little bit of action for the Ohio Valley. But the storm system seems to get ahead of the Arctic air, which is a classic issue the GFS model tends to have. We can see this storm bring some snow to the mountains in the northeast, but once again, it outruns that cold air, which is a very, very well-known quirk of the GFS model. That doesn't mean it's wrong every single time it shows this, but it definitely has a habit of overdoing that particular effect. I would say it happens about 6 or 7 times out of 10, and I have no idea why I keep landing on that number, but there it is again. The Arctic air finally arrives afterward, on the 28th and 29th, and then we see a flatter-looking system. Well, actually, maybe not. I mean, this particular storm on this model tracks straight to the north. Then we see that Arctic air begin to shift eastward again. We don't see any more of those perfect link-ups, but the northern jet is there and very active, and just like the European model, the southern jet is active too, but they're just not connecting. There's a little too much space between them here, and that's probably the biggest problem with this model run. This is exactly what I mean when I say the forecast can vary wildly from day to day. I'm going to show you another model run, the 18Z from yesterday, just to give you an idea of just how big these differences can be, because on this particular run, we get way more action. And look, the storm system arrives much later. This is showing the 29th, right after showing the 28th here. So, on the 29th, it's a bit further inland than the European model, for sure, but we end up with a much more significant storm in this scenario. We're seeing some serious differences from one model run to the next. We have a 998 millibar low, I believe, right there over West Virginia. That means a boatload of snowfall for the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. It's a little farther inland than what the European model suggested, like I mentioned, but it's there. And then, on that model run, we start to see this flatter storm track develop from the Midwest, across the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and then into the Northeast once again. So we're seeing this constant flip-flopping, and you need to be aware of that. The biggest takeaway in my view is that we need to keep a close eye on this entire area right here, and we also need to be watching the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, because there is just so much potential brewing. That's the best way to approach it when we're looking this far out. Nothing is set in stone regarding exact locations or snowfall amounts, but we can see these signals, and they can be very, very real. Now, looking at the total precipitation, the Northwest is getting a ton. Although it's likely going to end up being below their average. They typically get so much rain. And we're actually seeing a huge increase in activity as this atmospheric river pushes eastward for a lot of you. So, if we look at the anomalies, or the difference from normal, just like I said, we're seeing well above average precipitation for many areas where that southern stream is flowing. For the West, it's a mixed bag of some above and some below, making them pretty neutral. Now, looking at the total snowfall on that European model we just reviewed, we could see a major snowfall in the east from that powerful nor'easter this particular model run is forecasting, and we could also see a good amount from that more north-central system too. On this specific model run, both of them would bring 10 inches or more. That nor'easter for New England could drop maybe 1 to 2 feet. So these are some seriously hefty systems that this model is currently predicting. But for the sake of contrast, let's look at the GFS model. That was the 18Z run from yesterday. But on the 12Z, we get some snowfall in these areas, mostly for the usual suspects like the Adirondacks, the White Mountains, and the Green Mountains, and then near the lakes. And then we get a more moderate system, maybe bringing 6 to 10 inches for most of the Midwest and into the Great Lakes. So again, there's a huge difference from one model to the next. Looking at temperatures, we're seeing a pattern of warmer, then colder, kind of a back and forth ride until we finally get this last blast of cold that truly settles in. That would be for next weekend, Saturday the 29th. This post-Thanksgiving timeframe has been the one we've been watching all along. The southeast ridge is flexing its muscles, so we get this warmer air trying to push into this area, and what happens is the colder air has to move up and around it, wanting to avoid it, just like oil and water. It's forced to wrap around, and this is a more recent trend we're seeing on the models. This is likely why we're seeing the potential for bigger snow systems moving up into the northeast, because in a pattern that's cold everywhere, these storms often get pushed too far out to sea. You actually need a little bit of that temperature contrast to get a more favorable storm track like this, and that is the perfect setup for major snow events to happen. So, you see, something that might seem bad for cold and snow can actually be a fantastic thing for getting a big snowstorm. It can be pretty complicated sometimes. Now, for the GFS model run, I'm going to refresh this one as well because this is the 12Z, and what we see is that same back and forth pattern, colder, then mostly warmer, to be honest, before Thanksgiving. And then right after Thanksgiving, wow, we see that Arctic air come flooding in. This GFS model run is way more aggressive with the southeast ridge, but we do flatten. All right, zooming back out, we're seeing that Arctic air trying to make a comeback for early December. But here's the interesting part. The latest forecast models are keeping the deep south and the southeast a bit warmer. Now, that could certainly change, and we'll have to keep a close eye on it, but that is a key difference we have been noticing lately. So, let's dive in. This is the story of the past 20 days, which covers the entire month of November up to now. I saw a little bit of friendly confusion in the comments about this map yesterday, so let me clarify. This map just shows us how the month of November has been playing out so far. That is all it is. So, this is the temperature data that's been collected for November compared to what's normal. We can see it's been above normal for the west and central states and a bit cooler in the east, and that eastern region is going to get even colder as we approach the late November timeframe. It's going to be a race to the finish to see if the month ends up below or above normal here. Honestly, it's going to be a very close call. Looking at the satellite imagery right now, we can see that atmospheric river just ripping across the south-central states, the Four Corner states, and now pushing more into the Midwest and Ohio Valley. We can also see that northern jet stream taking a big dip down into the west currently. There is a lot of action out there, so let's take a look at the current conditions. Before we even get this map moving, let's dive right in. We've got some shower activity making its way along the west, impacting states like California, Nevada, Idaho, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado. But the real story, the most interesting weather feature right now, is this low-pressure system parked near Oklahoma and Texas. So let's zoom in on that. Keeping in mind, this is a lower resolution radar because we're starting with a view of the entire nation. You can clearly see a ton of thunderstorm activity already firing up through this whole corridor, stretching from Texas and Oklahoma through Arkansas, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, and all the way into Illinois and Indiana. Most of this is your typical thunderstorm action mixed with some lighter showers to the north, but the main takeaway is this entire region is just incredibly saturated. This area is much more moisture-laden than what the models originally predicted, which has actually lessened the chance for severe weather just a little bit. Still, we'll be watching closely for any new developments, and we also have some shower activity gliding across the Great Lakes. With all of that going on, make sure you subscribe. We post updates every single day. And don't forget to tell me what you think of this new format, where we're jumping into the forecast first. I'm happy to do whatever you all prefer. It's your channel too. I just want to make sure you're getting the information you're looking for without having to sit through 5 minutes of intros. So please, let me know your thoughts and be sure to hit that notification bell as well. That way, you'll get notified the moment we upload. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, leave a comment for me down below, and I will see all of you in the next video.